Ahoy, cruise enthusiasts! Carnival is back in the news, or actually, when are they ever out of the news? Two stories, but first, have a question. Do you prefer videos about multiple stories, or do you like maybe a video about one single story? It'd be a lot shorter, of course, just appearing, at various intervals through the day. I don't know, let me know. Anyway, today is going to be two things. Number one is the big story about the guest getting banned from Carnival over an apparent transgression over on P&O. Yes, and this is why you have me. I think I know what happened. Anyway, before we get started though, if you find this interesting, useful, or entertaining, or whatever, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and leave a like if the information is, useful, entertaining, whatever, who knows. But a guest was banned from Carnival. They got an email from Carnival Security. Originally, it was a Reddit post, which I guess should be right there. Hopefully, someone has dealt with this before. Well, hopefully not. Okay, I was scheduled on a Carnival cruise in a couple of weeks with my spouse and children. My spouse got an email from Carnival that our cruise had been updated, and I was removed as a guest from our cruise. Boy, the terrible email. Who wants to get an email like this? My spouse contacted Carnival, and Carnival stated I was removed by Carnival Security. An email in exchange with Carnival Security. Stated that I was on a no-sail list because of an incident that occurred on a P&O cruise. The problem is I have never been on a P&O cruise, as I suppose most people who sail Carnival. Which is why we will never get a cross-company loyalty program. Just so, we haven't talked about that in a long time. Anyway, an email from Carnival Security also states that there is no appeal and the decision is final. Anyone dealt with this? Hopefully not. Let's just put it out there. But, all right. Apparently, this turned out to be a case of mistaken identity after some back and forth with Carnival on the issue. They went ahead and contacted P&O and something like that and proved that the person removed from the Carnival booking was, in fact, not the person banned by P&O. And I read a couple of stories about this, and maybe the thread went back and forth on Reddit. And I guess the original point was to try to get the ban overturned. No, that's not what you need to do. If this happens to you and you have never sailed the cruise line from which you are banned, then don't try to get the ban overturned. Whoever was banned from P&O should stay banned from P&O, right? Try to get your name cleared by proving that you are not that person, which apparently is what happened here. So, how could this happen? Okay, well, one thing we learned from this affair is that the Carnival brands, at least, do share a no cruise list, right? This has been a question about whether or not they do, but, now we know. At least Carnival and P&O share no cruise list, which I imagine this is a corporate-wide thing. So, how did this happen? They don't... Okay. All these brands in Carnival are fundamentally separate companies, right? They're all under the Carnival Corporation. They're not actually separate corporations, but they function very, very independently, completely separate leadership teams, different systems, everything. So these no cruise lists are likely separated by a format that people are familiar with. I would not be shocked if this is an Excel spreadsheet that is just emailed around periodically. I doubt that there's enough volume in this to warrant some sort of automatic thing. However, how could this person on Carnival be matched to the guest band? So, there's nothing that links these bookings or anything like that. And this is not a case where they would just know that it's the same person. A few years ago, I was working on a suite of applications that dealt with people, but they are separate applications. And if I were to explain to you what the whole scenario was, I think most people's first reaction would be, well, shouldn't they know it's the same person? Yes, you would think, but due to a number of reasons, operationally, regulatory, they don't, and in some cases they actually can't, right? They're not allowed to link, the profiles or anything like that. Sort of. So we had this out. I didn't write it, by the way. I just knew how it worked because I had to deal with the output. They would exchange a bunch of demographics, and I think there were 14 fields that they would compare, and if enough of them matched, the system would give back a score as to whether or not this is the same person. And, sometimes it matched 100%, the full name, the address, the birthday, everything. And they're like, yeah, that's 100%. Sometimes not so much. Maybe they just had first name and last name and an approximate age and maybe a demographic about them, right? So that would result in a lower score. So it would be flagged as a possible match. Well, that's probably what happened here. I imagine whatever formula they have, maybe the first, middle, and last name all matched, and that was just enough. Maybe the birthday was wrong, or maybe they had 3 out of 4 have to match, or something like that. Whatever happened, there's enough similarities between these guests' demographics. Not these kinds of demographics, but name, birthday, sex, that kind of thing, that they're like, okay, maybe it's the same person. Hence the ban on Carnival. So this is how it happens. It was probably somewhat automated, or maybe someone just looked at it and saw, oh, the name looks familiar, and it matches enough, you're banned. I guess there was an exchange of photos or something like that, and the person is now allowed to sail on Carnival. So yes, these things absolutely can happen, and if this does happen to you, I certainly hope it doesn't. I guess your first goal is to just prove that you're not the person that should be banned, because again, whoever was banned from P&O should stay banned from P&O, right? Well, anyway, what did we learn about this? Okay, yes, we learned that Carnival brands do share no cruise lists, so on your best behavior, of course. And we also learned that decisions can be appealed, and they can reinstate a booking. Yes, despite the scary language in the email that the decision is final, there is no appeal, and the decision is final. Apparently, that's not the case. So yes, the decision is always appealable, and they can always change their mind, right? So there you go. That's what happened here, based on just things I've seen out in the wild, throughout my career. Well, again, yeah, on your best behavior, but if you do get banned, make sure, prove it's not you somehow. I'm not going to get into that. Number 2, speaking of getting banned, this has been circulating around. All right, this is going to be quick because I think that's fake. I don't really think that Carnival would leave a flyer like that. Congratulations, you have been banned from alcohol on your cruise. That is kind of ridiculous. It does happen, by the way. People do get cut off. This is a thing. It's always been a thing. It's probably been a thing on the particular day. And I'm not talking about the cheers limit. So yes, there's been times people hit the 15 drink limit and they just won't sell them anymore. Everybody knows about that. I have known people who have hit this limit. I may have, upon occasion, hit it myself. But that's the normal stuff. The system only sells you 15 and that's it. But if you are misbehaving, sure, they can absolutely cut you off for the day, for the cruise. I'm sure this is nothing new, and has nothing to do with this woman who just won all the money. In that case, that should be overturned, and then she should be hit with all the legal fees, of course. But I digress. So yeah, if they actually did something like this, well, if it's still up there, it would not be a flyer. It would not be so celebratory. It would be a very legally worded letter from maybe the beverage manager or one of the staff informing them of the case. It would not be anything like this. So my money is that it is fake. Still, be on your best behavior. But it says there, there is no appeal, but we now know that things can be appealed. Okay, well, there you go. 2 stories from Carnival today. And as before, if you found this entertaining or informative in any way, subscribe, like button. Don't bother with the bell. I don't do it for anyone, so I'm not going to ask it of you. And if you misbehave on a cruise and get banned, I guess I won't. I definitely will see you out of the cabin and off of the ship.